Welcome everyone to more kinda low-level open source and Linux code work and stuff. Yesterday or some weeks ago we started some more testing. Yesterday we quickly found, when I discussed, I really like some change root option for Qemu for an easier use of that. Yes, you can bin format register Qemu for other architectures, but that's a little bit fragile in system byte and root and stuff. So change root would be nice and easy. And yesterday we found here, even from Rob Landley, this patch not even that old, only 3 years. But of course it's not upstream, of course. And we imported that to T2 and instantly noticed, no surprise there, that didn't apply anymore. So I completely, rebased, mostly rewrote that. And it's in T2 already, because obviously, so let's, what do we have? I show you that and then we continue. So let's install, do we have Vim already cross-compiled with the all new? Because we finally want to release, yes, we have Vim. Oh, wait a second. Oh, darn, this is that's not what I wanted. Darn, shit. Anyway, never mind. Nothing to see. So I wanted actually 9, but whatever. So that would be Qemu change root. And so turns out, of course, Qemu Upstream has completely rewritten also argument handling. As you see, this was open coded previously, if stuff and so on. So now they have some Qemu argument. Is it argument? Yeah, I guess it was that one. Yeah. So they have some custom, why use other standards? Also, yeah, C, totally amazing language, and everyone needs their own argument parsing, usually open code and error prone and stuff. So they have rightfully rewritten that because 15 or so years later, Qemu, of course, they rewrite their argument parsing. But that made this patch totally not apply, obviously, right? This was also, open coded here. So basically, also super tiny patch, a little bit strange, in my opinion, that it's not upstream, because if you Google that, a lot of people would want that. I need to make an upstream day of sitting here 8 hours and sending patches upstream, because there are obviously quite some nice things accumulating in T2, obviously, because best Linux distribution out there anyway, right? As more and more people find out. So they, I mimicked here the style, of course. Pro tip, if you work on open source or other, not only open source, pro tip, always, even if you don't like it, match the style, your co-workers, and obviously in a professional software product, like not the peak bugs of Apple or Microsoft, but professional software products, you have one style guideline and stuff. And even especially open source projects, if you want the census, if you don't match the style, you will not get it upstream, right? So pro tip, match the style no matter what. So the other stuff there above that were named handle arc, change root, handle arc, whatever. So I totally agree, as annoying as it is that this stuff doesn't apply 3 years later. This code is obviously way nicer with this array of Qemu argument structures. And so this is the name there. That is, first I wondered what the heck is that, but as you see, there is some environment that is a name. Other stuff he has, for example, Qemu extensor, ABI call 0, or other stuff, Qemu extract and stuff. So if you, theoretically, you could use an environment variable here, we could use Qemu. Should we? We could actually Qemu. So it would be like change root, just maybe actually test it later. I didn't. So other options also have none, but we could use one. Why not, right? Not sure if, but whatever, it doesn't matter too much. And so I personally don't need SU today, but the code was there. Also, another nitpicking, not the super most amazed with this parsing here, this kind of stuff. Recurring themes, not amazing, no kidding here. And we should totally not write code like this. Me working on this patch, and then pro tip, don't write code like this. It's of course not the best practice of telling people, hey, that is a code, but don't do it like this. But I don't really want to spend my time now rewriting it. In C, there should be like similar in Python libraries, there should have been much better functions, because what's happening here is in the original code, string char here, check if we have a colon, then A to I, and otherwise, wait a second, why is this? All right, so they probably, you see, the problem is even actually, I thought I remembered they used string talk. Now I'm a little bit, okay, they do the group first. That makes somewhat sense. But yeah, open-coded stuff. The people who love C will, of course, tell me, yeah, that's fine. Gray old man ranting at clouds. But yeah. So yeah, searching for the column there, then A to I pass, Z ASCII to integer, so GID, and in any case, so Z only if found, they're also plus GID because continuing there, right? And then in any case, set at least the UID, just to explain this shortly. There are some implementation marginalities. For example, this is probably run, I would expect, I didn't review this custom coded argument code more, but I would expect this to run linearly in order of the arguments. For me, that means this change root is done as instantly as this is passed. Probably I could imagine there might be some corner cases where that with other arguments of at least Qemu system with bias and stuff, if there are like files loaded, so basically you kind of sort of need a little bit more careful. So one thing that I see the Qemu maintainers could nitpick if I send this upstream, they could say, I mean, maybe they don't notice that because they're code review, but so for example, if you use log files or any other kind of file, so after you have the change root argument, that would be then relative to inside the change root, and that might be a little bit error prone. So maybe it would be better to store the change root and pass all the arguments, and then at the end, after the argument passing, if change root was set, then only execute change root. Just a little bit of spreading here some pro tips and that you learn something. Also, I forgot of all the things, I probably knew that, but this change root, I first wonder why they have the change dir. Actually, first I edited this out, but then I realized reading the man page, also pro tip, I mean, maybe not edit other people's code or other. If you wonder, read the freaking man page, because turns out change root only sets the effective and stuff root, but not the current working directory. So if you change root without change dir, also yeah, Unix, Linux APIs, amazing, totally not error prone stuff, then the process could still refer to files probably relative to the current working directory. In this case, well, this could of course lead to security issues, but not only security issues, also bugs, because if you then have absolute paths and you would want it that relative to within your new change root, then they would cause random bugs of using files in the current working directory. But yeah, quite some stuff. I could see why this is not upstream. So the point is why I wanted that is to ease this testing. We had this previously, and so the builds are still building. I'm not sure if this, I think it didn't sleep in the night, this machine. I think we are approaching and probably maybe end here. So but we're building the standard T2 24 architectures of our just raw, aka unless I patched it because I needed some freaking feature. I really wonder why nobody, I mean, not nobody, right? Rob has done it, but why not more people have done that over the years? So we are not the only one. The internet is full of questions, even Stack Overflow and whatnot. But yeah, so the reason I want this, we had some cases, I don't remember which one it was, but one of the more exotic ones outputted a warning of the sort, so that is open, or was it okay? Open risk okay. And was it L? Was probably library prefix bin ls stuff. Yeah, so much to memory, right? We got that. So this irritates, not irritates, that breaks. Maybe we should also become more professional and choose our words here more wisely. So that breaks testing, or certainly, so this is certainly not nice to see, this LDSO cache, because what's happening, and I really wonder why like you would always kind of mostly need that, right? I really wonder why Qemu from like decade ago doesn't have this change root option. Because what's happening is it's running this process like emulating and just in time jitting that with TCG and stuff, tiny code generator. It's running with this process in working directory and change and root, so that it's referring all your system's files, right? And so I think the default, what you normally would want, the default is like relative to this system root thing. So instead of this -l, I really wonder why it has this -l library prefix hack, which sure you probably sometimes might want to use, but I think most likely, most recurrently, people would rather have this root option, right? Which is that what we have now with this change root. So that would be change root, and yeah, so then that is gone because then it is using the right LDSO cache and not the system. Of course, each thing has use cases, right? For example, now, previously when we used bash, I'm totally aware that this has different limitations, right? For example, now we can't execute anything because now we are change rooted in that. So if you now run ls, it would be the open risk ls here. And so that obviously doesn't execute like this. So sure, it's not a one fits all solution, but it helps me in my case. So we still, like, we can't easily test everything. So what happened previously, but I mean, previously, if you like if you just run this Qemu without any other stuff, then you would run your native ls, right? This is, however, also probably not really what most people would want. Like if you Qemu open risk 1k bin bash there and then like run xterm or x or anything else, it's not executing your open risk binaries, but your systems, whatever you have there. So yeah. Also another thing is that I realized that, for example, we couldn't run directly. So previously you could run xterm. I've done that previously. That probably mostly worked for the most part. I tested that. But now we of course can run xterm, which probably may or may not be here. Oh wait, this is also, if we have it, it is here, but we don't have it here. Or tmux, do we have tmux in this one? Yeah, tmux. So for that should be similar to xterm. That might previously have worked by pure, well, not really chance, to choose our words more wisely here. It's not by chance, or it's more like accidentally it would have worked. Because it also not really by design, just like accidentally the way it was, because the stuff needs device files. So we would need to bind mount stuff, right? So we gain some stuff, what we would want, like this LDSO stuff, and like, I mean, yeah, otherwise our tests don't work like correctly. But now we have another issue that we would need to bind mount dev or some other variations thereof, which also complicates testing. So as I said, it's not a one size fits all solution there. So yeah, we will see, because our goal here is to have more automated testing, including X stuff. So we need to see. One thing, I wanted to test xterm for all architectures, for example, so maybe even virtual frame buffer, but we need to see how much dev and proc stuff. And so the issue is with dev and proc, we could always mount that. Maybe we would need some sandboxing infrastructure, because if you run this concurrently, so if you don't run it concurrently, you could just bind or freshly mount stuff into your sandbox for testing. However, like if you mount and unmount that certainly is a race condition, right? Then if you run this concurrently, all your tests would mount and unmount. So to work around that, you could, for each test, for example, we probably should have a sandbox wrapper infrastructure to run tests, to bind mount the this root and bind mount dev and proc in there also, for example. But again, I think this change root option that we now forward ported and repolished there for Qemu is a great help. and we will see how what other tweaks and quirks and features we need for that. But in any case, I'm totally happy that we should be able to automate most tests. So that would be bind. Let's see what happens then. So then is this... not sure what's happening now with this tmax. That is this thing when probably something didn't... Maybe proc or whatever. Open... All right, another issue. Yeah, okay, you see, now we might have... Yeah, so this spawns a shell. So we have the next thing that it can't execute the shell. So yeah, one step forward, one step back. But you can theoretically, and that's a bit of the thing. Most people don't plan enough and architect enough and just randomly try and do stuff. I should have thought this more through. You could have determined that before, like that this change rule is not the solution to all of it. But what would be... Yeah, I mean, another thing would be, yeah, otherwise, to otherwise solve this, why is even this terminal settings thing open there? But even the bin format registration wouldn't help us, right? So I still would say we need this option, to be honest. Because without that, we anyway, the bin format stuff alone would still lead to the same failure there of, or at least errors or other. So yeah, we definitely need that, but unfortunately we might still need this bin format. Maybe we actually try what I would probably do to keep, well, it's not really keeping it simple, but at least less error prone. I will probably still write a lot of tests. Do we have that here, by the way? Probably here. So yeah, right now we have only one. We would want more. To run most tests without this bin format stuff, because this bin format it's also complex, or at least fragile. That's probably this one. And I wish it would be super simple, but even that isn't, because we need to register all the binary signatures, which can be quite arbitrary. This is also not all. This is somehow... by the way, I hope this can have multiple arguments. This, I think that's not all. Yesterday I had a long list, so this were only 3. Yesterday I had a long list open with like dozens. Yeah. And this bin format Qemu static is also, I don't want static versions besides that. It's also somewhat unsupported with glibc. Oh, very sad. Maybe without typo. Is that maybe... It's certainly not in the make files. It was a very, very long list. So why is this only 3? Yesterday I had like probably nearly all of them. And that is the thing, right? You need to kind of Google that, because I certainly don't want to spend hours to compile the list of all the format. The hard way. Yeah, and that's also the thing for testing, right? That this is global and needs root. Which I said yesterday. Is it that one? Ah, this one. Probably this one, yeah. That's probably nearly all. Is it even all we had? I mean, it's certainly quite some. Looks a little bit little, to be honest. Actually, you know what? One issue with it is actually, can we? Do they have PowerPC ABI 64 or ABI Yeah, so they don't even have all of them what we support. We have also PowerPC 64, ABI 32 or something. Okay, so stuff is building. Let's see how much is building, and then we want to do more testing. Or ADM logs, var ADM logs, best with S. Yeah, so some stuff is building. Stuff is nicely building for the most part. What are we? Do we have errors already? Maybe. Oh wait, shit. Why do we have errors here? Might be out of memory though. That is common thing. 96 are also stuff not applying anymore. Okay, so that is a fair thing. That's probably from the update yesterday. So much to merging some Linux update without testing them. So for Xterm, yeah, even the first thing I wanted to test doesn't work then, Xterm, but we don't really need to test Xterm. Did I make notes somewhere? Maybe I somewhere, maybe not. Or do I have, where do I have, maybe in my to-do here of, here maybe. So yeah, quite some things to test. I don't have this import. So what I also do, another pro tip before you tune out, to make this easy, you could do some naive thing, and because we want to test X11 and testing this graphic stuff, the most naive thing is to make a screenshot and compare the PNG. One thing is, of course, setlib compression always can influence stuff. So, and comparing binary data also is never nice and easy. So then I would at least save a text ASCII format like PNM, any portable AnyMap, for some readable and diffable format. And the next thing is, I will also not to have this megabyte kind of test files. We will only save the topmost 32 by 16 pixels or something like where you can see the Xterm prompt. And sure, it's not like testing everything, but we basically only want to test that Xterm comes up and stuff. So basically it's testing like 99% of the stuff, like sure, who knows, of random garbage, pixel garbage, or whatever could happen. But that's not the point. What we want to test that the freaking binaries work, all the pseudo terminal or other X11 dynamic linker and all this stuff works. And so for me, testing 32 by 16 pixels is enough, like having like 1% of the data, like easy, small, diffable, also where you could with diff, ASCII diff, make also pixels in portable AnyMap data and see what's going wrong. So like less than 1% of the data, enough to cover 99% of all the functionality. And that is its best trade-off. I personally really like such kind of keeping it stupid, simple and minimal trade-offs. So one thing I've actually never done is xorg dummy. By the way, do we even build the dummy drivers? Maybe it is possible that I excluded them because who would never need that? Oh no, it's even enabled, surprisingly. And what is with, do we not have some dummy keyboard? Must there not be also some? Void, input void. To test most, we had that the other live stream using X virtual frame buffer, but even cooler would probably be to test like more of the regular full xorg server. Yes, vintage and stuff we will also, before you freak out, we will also test Wayland with virtual VNC stuff. But that's certainly more complex stuff. What is even on our to-do? Also pro tip, usually work by your to-do where you usually not do random stuff. So yeah, we wanted to test quite some stuff. Which, hey, Qemu change root is even first there are more complex stuff like bash bin find. Yeah, so for that to test, I would actually even there keep it stupid simple, right? So I would, for that test, so let's also next like make a bash and find test, like just to test like more. What did we do? Qemu. So we tested ls, that was our first test, and to make this more complex and see when stuff breaks, because I even had find break and delete quite some stuff like 15 years ago, right? My life, when a bug in GNU find deleted most of my sources, which thankfully for the most part probably will be archived. And I heard this, and time of SCSI hard drives, like 7,200 RPM SCSI hard drives, where I could still control C when stuff rm-rf due to find bug. We will not test everything, so basically we could over time add tests for what we knew once upon a time broke, and not going to test like every freaking feature of everything, just like so both bare minimum stuff works. And then initRD can run binaries. Yeah, exactly. For example, like why do we do this automations of course king? So even with a slow system, but especially with epic thread-working systems, you would test in seconds what you manually would do, error prone with forgetting stuff and mistyping stuff and so on. Obviously, you don't want to sit there and repeating like random tests for 24, even for one, but let alone 24 architectures. So yeah. And initRD, for example, even with low memory stuff, because the other day I wasted an hour or two on the old PC previous video, and it's certainly not fun if you don't know what is freaking randomly breaking. For example, due to set standard compression and stuff. So this is why we make this tests. So stuff is building, more coffee, more testing. I let this builds progress there, and then in that time let's maybe try how to run Xbox server using something like that. So that would be probably simply input. Does it need a monitor section? That is actually okay. So we need a dummy config. By the way, let's like famous last words, how to kill a monitor. So device, okay, we need that dummy, and what input does it grab then? Does it wise? No. Would we not need an input section? Would this not grab the USB devices? By the way, I wonder, should it not be possible to run an Xbox server without privileges, so it doesn't even have a chance to grab any input devices? Because yeah, testing would be annoying if your automated testing accidentally grabs some input devices, right? All this stupid stuff always happening. This is even for old stuff. So if this is for old stuff, maybe we even, that's interesting. We don't even need to build that actually. It makes no point to ship that, to be honest. What was it? 14xl. Why did we even disable QXL? Maybe we don't have some deb. Void. So looks like, it sounds like the new Xbox servers can start without it. I slightly, let's do that maybe. Actually, I don't even want to have such a high resolution, to be honest. Totally waste of time test. Dummy and void always sounds so annoying. I don't want, this is interesting, I don't even want to have such. We need only, I want something way smaller. By the way, can we, wait a second, would this not have, I don't want to have such a high resolution. Should this not work something of standard mode? Should they not be built in? Wait, what did I delete? Just to keep the syntax. So yeah, we don't need a high resolution. 640 by 480 doesn't matter much unless there are high resolution bugs. We only want to know if this stuff comes up. I really wonder why they wanna... Actually, I would want... maybe for the log file. Do I have a Rainy user here? Actually, I have. Let's see what happens. I have the feeling this will error out with permissions. Relative path, what? With elevated privileges, config must specify relative path without any... What the heck? That is not what I expected. Okay, that comes up. Theoretically, I would want another log file, obviously not clobbering the system one. Yeah. Later we could even compare the log file if that should ever be necessary. So, does this log with times? Is it a, wait a second, what the heck? So dummy, what does it do with input? Ah, shit, it's indeed. So yeah, that is exactly what I did not want. So actually, I would ideally, actually, there should be an option for that. Welcome everyone. What is exactly for that? Yes. Yeah, so that is for the test suite. So I want to automate more stuff because we want to release this ISOs, which I rebuilt for the latest and greatest update and fixes, and for the slightly improved version number, just for this a little bit more professional. And then at this node work on this so that we automatically make sure we release kind of working binaries. I mean, very theoretically, you could even, if we could completely nuts, we could even test at least software 3D. And then for all the architectures, right? Because we had here on my Instagram seen previously, I mean, we're not testing, I mean, very theoretically, we could even fire up real hardware and run those binaries on real hardware, but we do this for our, obviously, I'm not spending that much efforts, although if you Patreon and GitHub sponsorship and stuff, yesterday someone new subscribed there for 3, I think, Canadian dollars. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. But you could do all the stuff. I really wonder, I mean, I said this, I'm really disappointed that stuff like GLX Gears, it should be perfect of 3D acceleration on vintage hardware, breaks my heart, totally waste of time for everyone. But I will do this with my own hardware, low-level hardware drivers and microkernel stuff soon, right? We will do light testing, that's freaking binaries works. And for our own microkernel stuff, we will do it more sophisticated. I really wonder that Reddit and SUSE, I mean, they certainly have some test infrastructure, but this could have been done, right? Not sure what those people have there, but they probably do some stuff. But yeah, so much stuff could be done and so little is somehow done. But anyway, there's a reason why probably everyone I know in the meantime uses T2 Linux. And so yeah, there is an option for that. Either, do they have a command line option? Maybe not. No, not auto repeat. By the way, I hope it doesn't do a VT switch. Would it do a VT switch for virtual hardware? Interesting. We will see in the future. So let's Xarc server no auto add something. Maybe I even have this in our example conf here. Yeah, that one probably disable new style disable. What? Auto add devices. I have no idea why I had this. I think once when UDEV was new, this was. I mean, it's an example. We're not using this by default anymore. I guess it's good that it's in there, but not entirely sure why. But again, Xorg nowadays starts configless, and that is certainly the preferred way to do so. So that goes in here and section. No need for excessive comments here. And let's try that again. And we would need some more scripting, right? We would need the server to come up. Not even sure what is the best way to, like, wait a second maybe. I really hate like timing things, so this timing stuff is a pain. Maybe the best thing is to have, you probably, yeah, so it's launching an Xterm, I guess, either Xterm or, I mean, we could check this, but whatever. Maybe the best thing is to script this so that Xorg server launches some other script. Actually, that is even tricky, to be honest. With this change root. Yeah, so this change root stuff is not trouble-free. Change root Qemu. I need to think about this. Maybe change root combined with, maybe we need both after all for the best seamless experience. So to avoid timing issues, maybe it's best to have the Xorg server start our script that runs some program and makes a screenshot. Yeah, all is tricky, we will see. So, never said it's easy. I just have some goals and ambitions and stuff. So, it's crazy that it's still scanning that. I mean, look at that shit. It's still iterating on my freaking local server, like, or workstation devices. That is really stupid, to be honest. So it's still using that input driver, which is not what we wanted, right? So it's grabbing this virtual dev input mice piece to vintage thing. That is obviously not ideal, and it's so yeah, so it remains to be tricky here. This stuff. Maybe we need. Did I disable? I think I didn't disable. Oh, where's the dummy? No, it's void. It's a little bit silly. This is kind of stuff that frustrates me. I would have named it the same. In my opinion, it's stupid to make. It's a recurring theme here, right? Naming one thing dummy and the other thing void. It's like, why not name both void or both dummy? Yeah. I want to freaking. Do we have somewhere? Lost void wasn't. Oh, not void Linux. Oh, how can they? Yeah, 2022 people. 2020 people. Some people name their Linux distribution void. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, conf. Is it, by the way? So yes, there's a typo. Input device, let's do that again. Let's name it input because it has both. And what it was. And monitor default text identifier. I mean, we don't. Should we keep this? No, okay, doesn't matter. Zero index stuff, who cares? I mean, we could, for readability, maybe remove this 0 here and only use others. So device, do we need card? It's also a little bit section device, section input device, card, graphic card. Okay, doesn't matter. We probably, do we need device input, I guess. See what happens. Default keyboard, layout section not using first mouse device. What? No layout section using somehow dummy driver for, wait, this is void, right? Module void, couldn't open module void, failed to load, what damn it, not installed it. Wait, void of course. Yeah, don't have that installed. What? Best without typo. So, old typo, no one is using LCO compressor, wink wink. Maybe drop a, oh shit, built some, yeah, okay, doesn't matter. Yeah, probably best drop a note on Discord and I will try. I noticed the other patches I mentioned yesterday, they are not like directly playable. I need to further investigate that. Void it was, right? But thanks for the pointers. I will try to process that as soon as possible. We have, okay, this is how I did that. Dummy no input driver doesn't connect. Yes, that's what I wanted. We don't, wait a second, layout, where do we have, okay, we don't have a layout. Do we need that then? Let's first try it with out. Using driver void for input, because I ideally don't want, I mean, obviously I don't want all those testing to touch. It's still using the keyboard driver. Is that a super good idea? Let's see. I mean, actually this video RAM, I think it's still excessive, but input driver void for input. Why is this adding extension input device default keyword? Why is it still adding? I'm not adding device. This is, so it's yeah, XOC server. I would totally, I mean, even my younger self decades ago was wondering what bullshit this is. I mean, obviously all the big developers know like XOC sucks and stuff, but even the log stuff is confusing. It's starting to add stuff. I mean, why is it even like listing this stuff if it's then not adding that? But ideally, I mean, we could probably work around that somewhat by not providing any of that in the change route. Okay, let's... did something fail there? I need to review that later. So let's see which build, because I had some builds aboard already with some random stuff. Do we have some PowerPC or so? Okay, that probably is mostly built, except the Linux kernel patches there. So copy served to clean this xorg stuff. And then try, it would be Qemu PowerPC. Change root here, user. Why would that not work? Does it need an it needed an ali config run. Interesting. Good that we tested that. Failed to compile. Okay, so that is not ideal. So that is a thing, right? We patched this change root, and now it wants to run some xkbcomp or so stuff. Can we disable that? No. Yeah, so it would work if, I mean, it's in general unnecessary. We don't really need that. I mean, sure, it's testing. It would test like what our real code path there. How to proceed from that? That is a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we have actually. So all this stuff starts to come up. Yeah, that obviously fails to run. Do they desperately need that? Yeah, so that is a little bit unfortunate. At least we compiled most of which this should have been copies, right? Famous lost words. Maybe we moved that already to the test directory, not to accidentally delete that. It even makes an... I don't want... I mean, if it doesn't exist, it's a little bit silly for the test. So, yeah, in our test we would have some kind of random test prefix to not have the issue of creating old files, but yeah, it's a full X server. It copies the old log file. So previously we used that. How did we previously start this? Just like that. Probably could even read this mapped file there for the frame buffer. So let's see if that is a little bit easier and doesn't need XKB comp. In the end, eventually we will do both, right? I just want to have something sooner than later. Indeed want that. That is crazy. So yeah, there's always something, right? The only constant is change and more problems. I knew we will have the issue like for running xterm and shells. So yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning of the live stream, at the end we probably need both change root and registering the bin format stuff for Linux to auto magically launch that. Unless we have probably also standard error right now. Does also not have any XCB. Crazy. William asks, does it run without an XOR conf? It will not like run further because it will try to detect a video card and then it will not default to dummy it was. So maybe, I mean, worst thing, if you don't run a change root, or if you run a change root and have /dev mounted, it would probably, even as crazy as it is, Qemu would even like start to use my native AMD Radeon 6700 XT thing here. So that is actually rather dangerous to let it do. So ideally, I mean, you know what? Maybe we could we have maybe some fake binary that just does nothing? So I hear set XKB. Wait a second. There is some XKB. Ah, darn! I grabbed for keyboard, but it was only XKB. XK. I mean, could we pre-compile that maybe? I run it first. Interesting, maybe we could natively generate it. And I mean, it's silly that virtual thing needs so much here, but what the heck? Patch your copy of XVFB on Center Sandbox searching for the vocation grep. Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah, 2022 and people fiddle around. Okay, although to be fair, it's 2014. So this is exactly what we had done. Where is the conf? So interesting. So they have a little bit more stuff here. Oh, what, they have dummy mouse and keyboard? Interesting. Okay, they add 2 input devices. I'm not sure if this will solve our problem. But some of the stuff sounds nice to have. Ah, I moved this from to test. Tests. So the other stuff sounds nice. We had auto add devices, but the other stuff also sounds like we should do that. As this RAM is a little bit excessive, I wonder, can we not get away like with 32 megs or something? And so core pointer, core keyboard, the mouse cursor. Didn't expect we need 2 of those, but apparently we need. Void and core pointer and core keyboard. Keyboard, it was right. So, and maybe we should better input device. Ah, I did this wrong. Even layout. We didn't have a layout, I think. Maybe we should then create a layout. Ah, wait. Why did we? Ah, it's just identifier. What? Did I not hit where did I edit this? Not sure what or maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I probably added that to the wrong section potentially, something. I have the feeling this will not solve our issue though, but nonetheless nice to gather this intel already. Keyboard, mouse, what? Ah, best was a typo. Yeah, still wants keyboard. Not out, what do I even? It's, yeah, this is a recurring theme, right? Not automatically adding devices, not automatically enabling devices, then automatically adding GPU devices. Like, what the heck? You had, for 20 years, you had one job and XOC server is all we have. But yeah. So dummy, what is here with input and stuff? Crazy many dummy outputs. Yeah, we will find a workaround for that, just or register it with Qemu, but something of that sort. So I'll copy that back there. So, What you saying with image magic? I don't. Yeah, so that is headless, it's virtual frame buffer stuff. With Qemu system is, I'm not sure what you, Qemu window. I don't want to boot a whole Qemu system, right? Booting a Qemu system might take a minute or two, even on the latest and greatest, fastest Epic Threadripper. So I intentionally want to user mode test that for an order of magnitude speed up. We will have whole system tests, but they are, given the boot time, that is not how I want to test most stuff. So yeah, that is a bit unfortunate, but actually another thing, so this would be only one thing. For another thing, we can use the local Xorg server. So it's actually two kind of tests, right? For most tests, we can actually run the native virtual frame buffer server for those tests where we want to test, for example, Xterm or so, and only because we want to test that Xterm comes up and draws the right stuff and is using the PTIs correctly and so on. So for those we don't have that issue for those tests. Where's even, all right, I had here somewhere, that one probably. Let's make a note of that, so that we don't need to re-Google that. Here. So does it help us? All right, so it helps us a bit in that we get rid of that one warning message for at least one architecture. Not sure if it even segmentation for it for another. So that would be our first test we had here was 00 bin, so that would be Qemu. So instead of -L, we would actually change root, which then only, and theoretic. So yeah, with that we don't even need to. By the way, did we for some reason had to cd into this root? Why did I do that? Was there a reason for that? Because our change root will not do it. So yeah, only works with T2 Qemu until this upstream. But yeah, I wonder if we can directly bash command like for do that? Why does this not? Must be some coding issue. Why does that not do? Why does it not work? Okay, fine, at least it works like that. So basically testing just some simple bash stuff. So that would be copy 001 to 02 bin bash command. we had in? Oh wait, this is the wrong one. So change root there. Yeah, run this stuff. Oh wait, did I maybe bin bash? Just to keep things simple, right? Also, we could save it. I think for now that's fine. And theoretically, we also would want to check that pdksa also works for the initRD, and then gradually, maybe even, yeah, the more complex the tests become, we eventually need to register anyway this bin format to be able to execute more complex stuff. For example, for this bash test, you couldn't run any other commands because they would be native binaries. But so bin bash, and yeah, but running tests concurrently is a real issue with this bin format stuff, right? So you, if we would run that, I mean, sure, you could always run it in separate virtual machines also, but otherwise, as this bin format stuff is global, we couldn't even register it with another change root, right? So if you happen to run 2 test suits on a machine, which in general should be a good design decision, right? It's not the best design decision that you can't run it concurrently like 2 times. Not that we normally would do that, but just mentioning that those global bin format registration issues. And then, of course, if you run all the tests, then for all we have Qemu, which might be like 20 of the 24 or so, or like something of that sort, at least over a dozen, then you have all those bin formats registered unless we unregister them again, right? Which is, yeah. Anyway, bin formats, so pdksh. I think we could use the same. Maybe we should test if that even works. So. Okay, that works. So is it that slow? Actually, how long does execution take? Somewhat feels slow, but okay, maybe this is just doxes to the office. Yeah, and there you see the difference, right? I said order a magnitude difference of running a whole Qemu system, and yeah, it would boot for sure. I mean, it's like basically like 2 orders of magnitude faster instead of running a whole Qemu. So then the next pdksh, let's test if this works the same way. It should probably, just because we run in the initRD. I mean, you know what, very theoretically we could test, instead of bash, we could test the system shell, which in our case is dash. Maybe we should just test the system shell. Is there any speed difference, by the way, for the simple thing? Would surprise me, but you never know for the simple thing. Also, yeah, bash is freaking less. So yeah, there you have it. Dash and pdksh 2 times faster than. Yeah. So yeah, let's test instead. It makes more sense. Otherwise, we would need to have 3 tests. There's also a limit of what stuff we test. Can we move that without? That makes more sense. And then. Or should we, I mean, maybe I mean, for the initRD, we need a whole Qemu system. Yeah, maybe we special case it for now. It's a little bit special. Or should we? Okay, let's not overdo it with nonsense. For those systems where we can run Qemu system, we will test it with initRD, running that from the initRD. So I guess it's probably, yeah, of course it's over 1 hour. We will test both. We discussed in the previous video, but I outlined this. My testing procedure is starting with the most simple things, so that if it breaks, if we start booting the ISO, which also for not all architectures we will be able to boot whole ISOs because we only have Qemu system for a handful of systems, and for some where we have Qemu system like MIP64 maybe, it will not boot our SGI Octane or SGI02 ISO. We could maybe eventually, if we hack up GXEmule. So there are other emulators, however, we have other integration challenges. So, and if it goes wrong, if we would only boot the ISO, we would not know what step goes wrong. So if we have soon like dozens of tests, or like in a year 100 tests, we would very fine-grained know which part doesn't work. For example, another thing, we did this already build. We have not yet sent S-trace upstream. So we could even test S-trace, right? So then, like, and this I start simple so that if it fails, you know very early, like, that is to blame. I mean, very theoretically, I mean, we could even further, maybe using 0 as a first test was not the most clever idea. Maybe I should rename the 010. And run the C library and linker first, which most of them allow running them freestanding for at least the steps output. However, the other thing is the difficulty with that is that the output is different, right? So it would be difficult to test their output, their expected output for glibc versus Musel. And even then, every year they change the date. So even that would be a little bit annoying. So maybe I leave it for now if we ever need to. I mean, we could, of course, test the dynamic linker and stuff in the future as well. Just then we would probably some kind of conditionalizing tests on whether it's glibc or Musel and so on. But that is for another day. So yeah, S-trace. We could actually test S-trace to have a more sophisticated test. Probably, by the way, how's my load here of 20? Not ideal. Not building enough stuff concurrently. So let's Qemu. Let's see. Do we have a risk 532 one? No. And we have. And let's test. Like basically, we should have user bin S-trace. I would hope. I'm actually not even sure if Qemu user supports. That's a crazy one. Maybe you can't even test this in Qemu user. Not sure if they emulate S-trace stuff. Not implemented. Huh. Who gets this so much testing that? But it's okay. There are limits in this test procedure, but at least some stuff to test. So maybe we start to delete stuff. So we have file prefix something. So basically we have implemented that. Test run more complex stuff like bash and find. I mean, we run bash, maybe find or even GCC later, but GCC is tricky because we would need bin format misc register. Do we have a test? Here we have that even test GCC can compile and produce working executables. So maybe not GCC here, but find and what else would we have? Whatever we future envision. Yeah, I have the theory. SGI02. Do they have Octane? I think they don't have working Octane. I mean, the O2 stuff I tested, the GX emulation O2 stuff is even only like partially working. So yeah. So yeah, some stuff. Oh, why is WebKit GTK failing now? Or is it? Actually, they're all failing. Why is it all failing? What the heck? Actually, you know what? I think I had some rubby disablement. No, what? Oh, okay, need to check this another day. I wonder how it previously built. Probably, yeah. We will. I will find out later tonight. So if you wonder why other products do not have more tests, like tests take time, design, even coming up with a test plan, implementing all of this, and then testing the tests. But we make progress, and we will really release that stuff. Or we have the last day. Yeah, so yeah, we will really release this 22.6 stuff now, at least partially tested. I will probably add at least one Qemu system test there to test the init ID that it comes up, to make sure we have no travel bug in the init ID. Last but not least, we can quickly check the Linux kernel things. It looks to me they merged probably some kind of Apple ADB stuff. And so yeah, all those kernels fail. Thank you very much. So much to untested stuff. Maybe I had rediffed that already. We could actually, let's see if that simply goes away by, but yeah, testing, more testing, right? Just probably yesterday, I, without much thinking, committed a lightweight Linux kernel update, and of course it broke something, right? You can't make this stuff up. Each time but yeah, basically what's not tested is broken, right? Even the most trivial thing, apparently I did not test. Usually I even test that the patches apply, but yeah, what's not tested is broken, right? Recurring theme here. Not the first time. Hello? Kernel Linux, maybe? Does it? Yeah, wait, we did that. So package. I think it was that one. Yeah, they did something. Can we either? I can also. And the right thing for me would be as we unlock and merge that. Maybe as part of. No, wait a second. That is strange. Say, which change is that? Is that even? Extremely old. I'm a little bit puzzled that why is that? That is strange. Wait, I did not revert that? Bloody fail. That's why this doesn't apply. Stupid me, I thought I had reverted that, apparently not. That is super stupid. historically not a fan of this merge nonsense. What is in this font config though? Alright, I added that for what did I add this? I will probably only commit this to trunk. I added that for something. There was a reason for whatever bootstrapping. Yeah, but that's it then. So we could probably manually build one of those. I probably should build now, and then we call it a day, 1 hour 30 probably. Yeah. So yeah, progress and work, attention to detail and dedication and stuff. If you want to support this, all the stuff, you know where the Patreon is and GitHub membership and YouTube membership and so on. Otherwise, thanks for sharing, likes and subscribes. Hope you learned something and to see you soon for the next fun stuff to come.